Welcome back. You're watching Capitol Report on NTD. I'm Alina Weisskopf filling in for Steve Lance. The Trump administration has suggested it will soon make some changes to the Department of Defense and its broader strategic emphasis. Our Washington correspondent Luis Eduardo Martinez has more on the story.
سه دو آتش.
U.S. adversaries are ramping up their military cooperation and military exercises. Iran conducted last week its first live-fire military drill since the 12-day war. Russia and the Chinese Communist Party also conducted earlier this month joint live-fire naval exercises in the Sea of Japan in a show of growing cooperation in between Beijing and Moscow. U.S. allies are also flexing their military might. Canada, Australia, and the Philippines conducted live-fire military exercises in the disputed South China Sea shoal earlier this month. And the United States conducted water-crossing drills with the Republic of Korea, while Taiwan has tested their newly acquired U.S.-made HIMARS rocket launchers. The world is preparing for a potential war in the Indo-Pacific, and the Trump administration is preparing changes to its own Department of Defense.
As I call it, the Department of War. You know, we call it the Department of Defense, but between us, I think we're going to change the name. You want to know the truth? I think we're going to have some information on that maybe soon. But I think because, Department of Defense, we won the World War I, World War II. It was called the Department of War.
George Washington created the Department of War in 1789. Its name was later changed some 150 years later in 1949 to the Department of Defense. That change was intended to reflect the Cold War era national security priorities, which emphasized the defense of international allies and deterring Soviet Russia.
It's not just about words. It's about the warrior ethos. It's about what the department is supposed to do. George Washington started the Department of War because he wanted us to win our wars. Our founders didn't want endless foreign entanglements. They didn't want endless contingencies and deployments. They wanted an empowered military the handcuffs were taken off to fight to win.
If the Trump administration goes ahead with its suggested changes of the Department of Defense, it would likely have to go through Congress as it did in 1949, and it would reflect a modern view of national security strategy, which emphasizes offensive capabilities as means of deterring U.S. adversaries. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Luis Eduardo Martinez, NTD News.
What are some of the ways in which Chinese students are suffering transnational repression in the U.S., and how should American universities respond? To discuss, we welcome Jonathan Zimmerman, education professor at the University of Pennsylvania. John, thanks for joining us today. So Hong Kong recently issued arrest warrants for 19 pro-democracy activists abroad, including in the U.S. John, what exactly is Beijing targeting here?
Well, obviously they're targeting dissent. And they're actually trying to target dissent all over the world.
Right. How has the U.S. government and its institutions been responding to this?
Well, look, I want to be clear that I think that Secretary of State Rubio said the right thing. He said it's unacceptable for Hong Kong to be pursuing people it regards as dissidents on American soil. And it's not just on American soil. The Chinese had pursued dissidents all over the world.
Right. In your op-ed, John, you wrote about how colleges must speak up for their Chinese students who are under pressure from the CCP. Can you walk us through what kinds of transnational repression that Chinese students face while studying here in America?
Well, one of the things we've learned from Amnesty International and others is that when Chinese students go abroad to the United States and to other countries, they're frequently spied upon by other Chinese nationals who report what they say and write to the security state back home.
Right. I think there's an example of a Chinese student handing out pamphlets denouncing China's zero COVID policies. That was videotaped by members of the Chinese Students and Scholars Association.
Right. And they sent it to security officials. And then the kid's family back in China was harassed. We've also learned that there's some Chinese students who, before they register for a class in the United States, look to see if there are other Chinese names on the class list, and they try to avoid classes that have other Chinese students because they don't know if that person is a security agent or is reporting to security agents. Now, this is a complicated problem. I don't know what to do about it. I'm not requesting any a massive surveillance effort to root out people that are doing this, but it is illegal, right? Because unless you're registered as a foreign agent, you're not allowed to inform to foreign countries about events on U.S. soil. And also, I think it's just inimical to our entire model of education. The reason we bring students from other countries, the reason we bring students from anywhere, is so they can learn from each other. If they're living in fear and they're biting their tongues because what they say might be reported to a security apparatus, that's unacceptable.
Right. And this is a very serious issue, John. Why have our universities stayed silent on this issue of transnational repression?
Well, just to be clear, not all of them have stayed silent. Purdue University released, I thought, a very admirable statement after they learned about this, just saying, again, we find this unacceptable. And we will not, we don't accept or allow spies on our campuses. Look, the answer to your question, why have other people stayed silent, is pretty obvious. It's because we get so much tuition money from China. And that's real. In some ways, it pays my salary and the salary of other academicians. But that doesn't mean that we should stay silent when we see our fundamental educational values being violated on our own soil by a foreign government.
Right. And to the issue of how we can respond to it, I mean, just to bring up some current news here, the president said yesterday that he will allow 600,000 Chinese students into U.S. universities. John, how do you think we can protect these students from CCP repression?
Look, I think at a minimum, we should have very explicit policies about that subject. And the policy should say, we believe in academic freedom and free speech. We believe that all of our students, no matter where they're from, have those rights and should have those rights. We believe that everyone's education will be harmed if people are self-censoring or if they're living in fear. So we do not accept and we do not allow anybody to inform to foreign governments about behavior that happens on our campuses or in our classrooms. Let's also remember the timing of all of this, because at the same time that the dynamic that we're discussing has been happening, the Trump administration itself has stepped up its surveillance of international students, including their social media feeds. The Trump administration has said that it's going to deny visas to people that are, working against the United States or don't abide by our fundamental values. And so what we've discovered is that a lot of international students are going through their social media and taking out a picture of Barack Obama or Hillary Clinton because they imagine, perhaps correctly, that somebody in the Trump administration is going to view that as somehow anti-America. That too is inimical to what I understand academic freedom and American freedom to mean.
Right. Given all this, Jonathan, and current adjustments made to the education department, what direction do you hope to see our education institutions head in now?
Well, what I want is for us to continue to be a magnet for foreign talent and for foreign scholars. That's what the United States has been for 100 years. We're now, we recently commemorated an anniversary of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. How did America build the atomic bomb and win the Second World War? Well, the way it did it was by attracting brilliant people from other countries, refugees from their countries, who we brought in. If you really believe in America first, you should want that. That helps America. It helps America to be a magnet for foreign talent. And it hurts America when people are not coming here, when they're going elsewhere.
Thank you for your time, Jonathan Zimmerman. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
As President Trump hints at letting in 600,000 Chinese students, some of his supporters are pushing back. What are the sensitive fields of study and why the president says U.S. colleges would struggle without Chinese students? Find out more tonight on China in Focus with Tiffany Meyer at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And that's all we have for you tonight on the Capitol Report. For round-the-clock original news coverage, visit us at ntd.com/live or download our NTD app. From the nation's capital, I'm Alina Weisskopf. Have a great evening, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.